Hello, people, and welcome to another episode of Uncomfortable but Necessary. Grace Gems in the house. Are you ready for that? Unfiltered, undiluted, that uncomfortable conversation but necessary. So I remain your host, Grace Elishisi, and right here on this space, this uncomfortable but necessary podcast, this is where we have conversations that's might be uncomfortable for us to have, but trust me, these are necessary conversations that will change our life, transform our lives, that every individual that is a lover of growth and transformation should always look forward to. But this is that one conversation that will help you to grow, to ask challenging questions, to challenge yourself in a good way, and in a sense give some kind of guidance, counsel, direction, motivation that you really need to move your life from where it is right now to where, not just where you want it to be, because sometimes our expectations might be smaller or shorter than where it ought to be. All right, so and welcome to another beautiful episode, Grace Gems. Thank you so much for tuning in to another powerful episode. So, for some weeks now, we've been talking about trauma, and we've looked at what trauma is. We've talked about how it affects our relationships, and today we'll be talking about how trauma is passed down, either from generation to generation, from parents to children, from governments to their citizens, how literally trauma can be passed down. And this is not for you to snap out and say, oh, I'm not passing trauma, or nobody is passing trauma to me. Who waits to the end of the video? Okay. And really ask yourself genuine question. Hope I'm not passing down trauma. Because whether you like it or not, every one of us at one point or the other, in different degrees, trauma has been passed down to us. So the question we need to ask ourselves at the end of this episode is, am I passing trauma to someone else? And before you say I'm not passing trauma because I'm a good person, I'm a Christian, you might not be aware of how minute or how carefully you're passing trauma to someone without planning to. You don't need to intend it most of the time before you pass it out, especially when you don't know what to look forward to or what to watch out for. All right, so let me just start by saying that one of the most uncomfortable truths about trauma is that sometimes people pass down traumas or wounds they never healed from. So I need you to know that some of the times what makes people to pass down trauma is because they themselves have not healed. So it's almost like misery love companion. That is usually the case because you are wounded. It's almost like everybody around you will, in one way or the other, should carry wounds. All right. So not because they are evil, like I said, not because you intended it for it to happen or you planned for it to happen, not because you are intentionally or intentionally want to hurt them, but because pain that is not healed often finds another place to live. I need you to remember that any pain that is not well healed will always look for a place to live. And it just brings me to remember, the Bible, this illustration that it gives that when an evil spirit is being cast out, and when it's been cast out, and where it was dwelling, like the individual it was dwelling in, if the individual refuses to clean up their lives and allow the Holy Spirit to take charge, once that evil spirit comes back and seal its place empty or free, it will not just come back by itself. It will bring more powerful, wicked spirits than itself to join him in this adventure, in this found mansion. Okay, so that is why you really want to ask yourself, am I healed? whatever kind of trauma. And I think last week we looked at how it affects people and their relationships. So you might already be aware of some of the traumas that you carry. Okay. So I need you to know, how does it mean, or what does it mean for trauma to be passed down? So trauma is passed down when emotional wounds, or any form of wounds at all, be it fear, unhealthy beliefs, coping mechanism, behaviors of one generation, affect the next generation. So it's almost like what we sometimes refer to as generational curses, or generational behaviors, or sometimes these things are like strongholds. These are not, and like I said, most of these things are not intended. They were not planned. It's not like someone sat down and crafted how trauma will be passed down, or how they pass trauma. Sometimes these things are just passed down, probably as a result of the family you came from. It's had nothing to do with you. In fact, the carriers or the transferers of this trauma are not aware of the crucial parts, or their crucial position, or their, what how they affect the grand scheme of things. So example now, a parent who never experienced affection may struggle to show affection. It's as simple as this. And sometimes people think trauma is about what is done to them. Sometimes trauma is what was never done. Trauma can be as a result of what was not done to you. So trauma is not always, what was done to me, the heartbreak that I survived. No, it's not just what was done. Trauma can be what was never done. What was never done to you can give you trauma. The affection, the love you never experienced from your parents can be a trauma. So it's not until, I was maltreated, I was beaten. That's another trauma. So someone that did not enjoy affection, or did not experience affection, might not even know how to give affection. So can you see how it can almost be intentional? Because what you don't have, you cannot give, or you don't even know how to give, or you don't even know it is needed. So someone that was starved of affection as a child might not even see it as a bad thing, might not even know that they lack it, might not even know they should be given, might not even know that it's needed for them to give to their children. So if such people that have not, unlearned some things, relearn and relearn, or unlearn some certain things, they will think that is how life is meant to be. And to people that are probably showing affection and love, they will say, oh, you're spoiling the child. So I always tell people definition is very, very important. So because sometimes we jump into the question, oh, so that person is, that child is a spoiled child. And I'm like, what do you mean by spoiling a child? Because we need to define. So definition can be, you can have definition about anything if you're traumatic. If you have a traumatic experience, if you have trauma, your definition, how you view life, your expectations, your experiences, in fact, the way you make decisions, it can affect it. So when you define, oh, this person is spoiled, or this person is showing affection, how did you arrive at that definition? Because your definition of spoiling a child is probably because someone is just showing love, being affectionate to their children, and to you, because you were never given and don't know how to give it, you term it as spoiling. Okay, another example. For example, now a parent raised in fear may raise children through fear. Oh, never do this. One of the fears that was told to most females, it was not told to me anyway, because my parents were learning, right? And they were not traumatic. They were not carriers of traumas. For example, now, if a mother that was raped happened to have another female, Do you know that the way she will advise, because, and again, there are two extremes to every situation. Trust me, is either they have children that will almost have similar experience, or have children that will be almost careful. I will not even want to have anything to do with relationship, man, sex, anything at all like that. So these are two extremes. But most often we see parents or mothers, like that, tell children or their parent or their daughters that I think that was where all these things started from. When a man touches you, you get pregnant, and you're like, and sometimes now we know that is not how it happens, but they make you believe that literally that is how it happens. Like, if you're touched physically, that is how it happens. So you can raise a child, you can raise a daughter with that kind of fear, and she will not just fear, you know romantic relationship. She will fear men as humans, as their gender. She will fear men. Some of them might even grow hatred. They may have hatred, because a lot of all these feminists, a lot of them are just hiding behind traumas. And I listened to a podcast. At the end, I was just getting irritated. I just turned it off because I'm like, what's this? And I could see from this lady's perspective to every question she was asked. I can see trauma everywhere. And even though it's not getting to me, but I was just moved by a lot of young people, innocent people that might not see from my lens of experience, that will probably absorb everything she's saying. Because trust me, this is someone's models, this is someone's idol, this is someone's, celebrity, and most people don't know where to draw the line. They don't know you know, how to sieve out what they want to get from, what they should get from you. They see you as a god, that everything that comes from you is perfect, be it character. It's okay to appreciate people for who they are or what they are doing, or their skills, their talents, and you don't need to want to be like them. You don't want to have their character. You understand how this person has a character flaw. I'm not taking this part of this person. I don't want to have this trait in myself. So people don't know how to sieve out those things. They just take everything in. And I was just looking at her and how that, I can see trauma in a suit. She was just saying all those things. I hate men. And she said the word, I hate men. And I'm like, is this not supposed to be concerning? Why will you not just dislike, not just concern? Hate is a big word. And for you to boldly say this, trust me, it's coming from a place of trauma. It's coming from a place of trauma. So most of the time, people just have trauma from, probably they were raised from, by traumatic parents, like someone that was raped or someone that was deprived of love. Another example, probably a parent that was emotionally, that a parent who was emotionally neglected may struggle to provide emotional support, like I said earlier. Sometimes people give others what they received, not what they needed. I need you to allow that sink. The default setting of most people is, I give you what was given to me. I do not give you what I think you need. So if love was not given to me, I will find it difficult to give love. So that does not mean I don't have love in me. I might have love in me, probably by me giving myself love. It did not mean I was giving love. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Most of the time, people will only freely give to other people what was given to them, not what they labored to give to themselves. For example, no one gave me a platform. I will not give you a platform. That does not mean I don't have a platform. I might have a platform, but the fact that I had to walk, I had to sweat, nobody helped me, I climbed this ladder by myself, no one gave me a platform. I'm not giving anybody a platform. Can you see how this thing works? And we justify it by a lot of things. This is one that has been traumatized. It's okay for you not to want to give, but to say because it was not given to me, it was not done to me, you to go and suffer. That person is not healed from what they were deprived from. Because if you were actually healed, trust me, you know how it feels, you know what it feels to do all of these things alone. You will want to, because you now have compassion. But if what you're feeling is revenge, you want to show them, you want to other people to suffer, trust me, that is trauma. Before now, you might not be seeing it that way, but trust me, that is what it is. Because it's coming from a place of hurt. Remember our definition of trauma. And it might not just be emotional, it's not, sometimes we think it's just relationship based kind of thing that give people trauma. A lot of things, life experiences, people that they had contact with, when the way people treated them can give people trauma when they are not healed from it. So anything at all that gives you hurt, that is hurtful, that whenever you remember it, it brings some kind of bitterness, some kind of sober, some kind of hurt, some kind of negative energy. And it's not for you to start saying that, oh, the other person, accept that you're hurt, accept that that is a trauma, and you need to really heal from it. Because you might deprive other people, you might hurt yourself, you might deprive yourself, you might even cut short your joy. Because sometimes when you need to now be happy for people, you find it difficult to celebrate with them, you find it difficult to help people, you don't want to have a miserable life. Okay, remember, we are actually treating how trauma is passed down. So a boss can pass down trauma to someone working closely with them, can pass down trauma as a parent. So it's not a far-fetched thing. Trauma is not is not something that is so big like that, that it cannot happen to me, that we often think about, or I cannot give another person trauma, that we often think about. Okay, I also need you to know is that what I also need you to know is that trauma is not only passed through abuse. Like I said earlier, it can be passed through words, it can be passed through things that were not done. So it's not just about, oh, I was physically abused, even though that's also a very strong kind of trauma. But it's not always like that. Because many people think trauma is only passed through violence. So it's not always the case. Sometimes it could be as a result of silence, emotional neglect, constant criticism, fear-based parenting, lack of affection, shame. When you shame people, body shame them, it can give people trauma. When you just say things the way I say things the way I feel, I just say the things the way they are, I don't care. It can be traumatic for some people. Because sometimes, especially to people that have sharp mouth, you see them, there's nothing you cannot say, there's nothing too big for you. You say it, there are better ways to say that same thing you want to say, because you just do not care. And probably you are even speaking from a place of trauma. Probably that is how you were talked to by someone, and you feel like you have to do it to someone else. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just helping us to see how these things had happened over time, and how that we also sometimes not intended, not planned, pass these things down to other people, our children, our family members, our colleagues, our friends, our employees, people that work with us, our neighbors. For example, I said a child may never be beaten, but may grow up constantly fearing. Have you seen children that they were not beaten, or they were never beaten, but they have this fear that this one is not referential fear. This is fear of, oh, I'm done. And that's why sometimes when this kind of children are grown up and probably they make a mistake, they can't go home. Because home is not a safe space for them. It's not that safe place. It's a place of constant judgment. Even though they were never beaten, but the kind of Oh my God, I've seen people have. Remember, I'm a life coach. I'm a counselor, and these things comes to me almost every time. When I have conversation with people and I see odds, and I'm like, have you discussed with your parents, especially teenagers? And they're like, my parents will kill me. I'm like, did they beat you? Did they maltreat you? No, so sometimes they never beat these kids, but there's this kind of fear that if they know I'm dead, and then you think that will help such a child. It will even make them make more mistakes because they can't come for you for guidance. They can't come for you for counsel because they don't know what mommy will do. They don't know how daddy will take it. Because some parents might cut them off. Some parents can, you know, do some ridiculous things, and probably they will think that is parenting or teaching them a lesson. Sometimes it doesn't really work. It just creates unnecessary trauma for them. So, like I said, a child may never be beaten, but may grow up constantly feeling not good enough by words that have been spoken to them. They may feel unheard, especially when you tell children, "Shut up! Who asked to talk?" That thing can you don't that thing can be traumatic because you know I've seen outspoken children, and because they just want to just give their opinion, and I'm not saying you should just allow children, but there are better ways to these things, to handle these things. And you see parents shut down children, to shut them out, and you will see an outspoken person ending up becoming a timid person, someone that cannot talk. And because I've seen people that when I end up having conversations with them, I see how they are so intelligent. And I'm like, why didn't you say this? Like when you were asked this, what is I was like, does it really matter? It matters because they've been told over time, over the years that they should shut up. So they're like, okay, who would now want to hear me? If my parents are not interested in what I have to say, who will want to hear what I have to say? So sometimes the feeling of unseen of or being unworthy can be traumatic to people. Another way we can pass trauma is this is how I was raised. And this is still about parents. And I think I'm going to this direction because it speaks a lot. Our childhood, our growing up before become adults speaks a lot. In fact, most of the things that we do right now, or some of the things that will how we see life or how we relate with life, most of those things were inculcated to us as children while we were in our childhood. And this is the best place to have a good foundation. And if the foundation is faulty, it really takes that is where we now start to think of healing. But when we, you know, have a good foundation, it doesn't have to be a perfect one because it might not be a perfect one. But when we have a good enough foundation, then we can save ourselves from healing from traumas because, at least in a minimal way, not like in every area you are traumatized in a lot of things. So that is why I think I go in this direction. And especially to us that as adults now, these are the things you suffered. You don't want to raise another child. You don't want to, and this does not just have to do with biological children. People that see you as mentors, people that see you as big sisters, people that see you as their aunts and their uncles, your nephews, your nieces, your cousins, people around you. Start from there, from the way you talk, from the way you deal with people. Now you need to understand the necessary, how important emotional intelligence is. Because trust me, where a lot of us, you know, understand emotional intelligence, we relate better. We learn how to relate with people better. Some of the times, what makes us just to do the way we do things is because we lack emotional intelligence. You're not intelligent, you're not self-aware, you're not emotionally aware, you're not emotionally intelligent, and you just do things without knowing the repercussions. So as I was saying, I said sometimes how people pass trauma, we're talking about how trauma is past. It could be from how I was raised. I've seen parents that have the means, be it connection, be it financial need, or probably just things to ease their children to make life easy for them. And because they were raised in harsh background, or from they came from a struggling background, they think that children need to undergo those struggles. This is not to teach them character or anything, but just to make them have a feel of how they were raised or the things they suffered. That is not just necessary. And sometimes, probably in African setting, we've in a way glorified the from grass to grace story. It's okay to be from grass to grass, from grace to grace. It doesn't always have to be from grass to grace. So people think that the story is not sweet if it's not from grass to grace. I don't need to suffer some things. The fact that I have a soft life, and that there's some kind of people that is how in fact is how life is meant to be. Forget all this we have to struggle and and struggle. It's okay if that is how your testimony is, but allow people have a beautiful starting and a perfect ending. It doesn't make it short of a testimony. It doesn't make it short of their becoming or their character. It's how it's communicated that really matters. And sometimes when you see, I think we Nigerians or Africans, we've been traumatized by struggles and those things. And when we see kids of rich children, of rich parents, all these rich kids, there's this unspoken hatred. Not because we don't want their life, not because we don't see their life as the ideal life, but because of the place of lack, because we come from the place of suffering and all of those things. We see it as unfair for them to own up to their lifestyle, to the same way we do the trenches videos. And when they are showing their houses, that we are there's this, I don't know how to express it. Is it anger? I can see these things even from comments, and how people just bash rich people kids. It's all trauma speaking. Trust me, it's all trauma speaking. So the fact that you do not have it smooth does not mean that the other people that have it the other way around, they're bad, or every rich man, is a cultist or a kidnapper or a thief. For example, um, my parents shouted at me and I turned out fine. So I should shout at you and I should turn out fine. And you see some people, like I said, these things might not be intended, but you really need to pay attention. How are you raising the kids you're raising? Or how do you plan to raise the kids? It should be from, oh, my parents shouted at me. They were these angry birds, and I knew what it did to me. And because of what I knew it did to me negatively, I would not raise my kids this way. I'm not saying you should not correct, but because they were always shouting, they were always mad at me. Oh, you two, I will show you. Because I've seen parents, even sometimes it's just cruise that, oh, things that my parent did to me, now is my time to do it to my kids. Even though that might look like it's just funny, but sometimes if care is not taken, that is what we end up doing. I've seen the parent that probably because they can literally not be able to afford to drive their kids to school. Now you have a car and you are telling your children you have to trek. Because I trek me, and when I was your age, I trek. And you think, why are we glorifying suffering? Lately I started this propaganda stuff on my Instagram and Facebook. Propaganda that I'm not falling for. Glorifying suffering is one of the things that I see most people do. They are glorifying suffering, and as suffering, especially when it end up to being a good thing, an happy ending story. It's something that should be well cultured and um to be carefully passed on. It's the lessons that really matter, not the suffering or what it is. what it's made of you, the character it's built in you, that same character, build it in your children. Sometimes it's not just about how it was passed to you or because I trekked and this is what I learned. Let's go to what did you learn? Then teach me. You don't need to make me go through the exact way you learned it. I don't need to learn the hard way you learned. In fact, good people, good mentors, good coaches. That is why we have coaches and mentors, because I've gone through this path and I had this success. Now I want you to have this success and I don't want you to go through the hard part. That is why we have coaches and mentors. So if we have coaches and mentors in that area, and you as a parent, now that you have this kind of success in this area of life and you want me to suffer the things you have before I have your results, then that is not a good one. I hope you're seeing these things differently. Remember, this is uncomfortable but necessary. These are conversations that are necessary for us, and you might see it as uncomfortable, but trust me, it's very, very necessary. For example, nobody hugged me while growing up. Can you see? We don't talk about feelings in this family. Why don't you talk about feelings in this family? And it affects relationships, it affects marriages, it affects children, it affects them. Like I said, um, let me just say this: normal does not always mean healthy. The fact that, because when we said normally, this is a normal thing, normally it's a normal thing, normally it's a normal thing. I always tell people, define your normal. Because you'll be shocked that a lot of people normal is abnormal. Define what you mean by normal, because the things that we call normal sometimes are unhealthy things. So if your normal is unhealthy, then it should not be normalized in your family, in your relationship, and in training your kids, or in handling your staff at work, or in relating with people generally. So some things, even though has been seen to be normal, they are not healthy. Like the ways some parents, train their children, the way some husband, traditional man, like even this thing affects relationships. Oh, my father did this thing to my mother. No, my no man is the alpha and the omega, is line of the tribe of the house. Even though it was the normal you grew up in, is it healthy? Was it healthy for you? What did it do to you? You were hurt. You know how you would have wished that your father, you could hug him, how that you feel, these things you miss. People talked about how that they will sit on their father's lap. You don't have that as a testimony. Now you are saying you want to be that kind of a father. That means you want your children to also suffer the same thing. That means you want your wife to also have, a spouse that they cannot hug, they cannot hold, they cannot talk to, because that was the same thing your mother faced. So, like I said, some things we call normal. The fact that it's a kind of normal in your experience does not mean it is healthy. So this is the time you need to start questioning things you see as normal. Oh, it's normal for us to share egg. Nobody finish, and whole egg in his family. So I've seen a lot of people that just practice some things blindly. They don't even know where it's originated from. They don't even know why their parents did it. It could be because they were not brilliant or no. I've seen a lot of practices that have been passed down from generation to generation and no one questioned it. And they thought because it was normal for that generation, that was the ideal. No, no. Okay. So very quickly, uh, there's still a lot to talk about. So how does trauma shows up in adults? For example, in relationships, trust issues, fear of abandonment, jealousy. Can you see jealousy coming from a place of trauma? Imagine emotional withdrawal. In personal life, it can show as low self-esteem, people pleasing, perfectionism. I'm a perfectionist. Sometimes it's from a place of trauma because your mother will beat the hell out of you if you do not do it well. So you add that straight not because you by yourself you're a perfectionist like that. Fear of failure. So in emotional health, it can show up as anxiety, constant worry, anger, emotional numbness. So what I'm saying is sometimes adults are reacting from old wounds and not present reality. Some things we see as, oh, it's my personality or it's my traits, my character, is my habits. Some things, some of those things you as a result of trauma. Or I must make it in life. It's not because you like success like that. It's because you've been traumatized with failure. And because failure has traumatized you. So the difference between intent and impact. So this is an important discussion because many parents genuinely did their best. Trust me. However, good intention does not erase painful impact. For example, oh, we love you. That's why we are teaching you this thing. The fact that you intend to you know your intention was love, your intention was pure or is a good intention, does not mean that the impact was a good one. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Okay, the vehicle as which you deliver the message or the culture or the life lesson you want to teach me, the vehicle you also use to is important. It's not just what you are teaching me. It's not just the what you want to give to me, but also how you deliver it. Some of those sometimes people believe that lessons or life lessons or you know um character should be taught or you know to be taught in a painful way so that you will not forget. You know, you show your children's children. It doesn't always have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. And I know that sincerely, some of us were stubborn as children. If those things were not done to you, you will never remember. But the actual fact is that we need to be intentional with how, just like even as an adult, you know that when someone is trying to correct you, even though you know the intention is for correction, there are ways you prefer that it was done to you. That same way you prefer it, do it to someone else. Because that was the same way you would have been, the same way you were creative in your head. Ah, if this person had just said this or had acted this way, that same way, do it. Okay, so let me begin to wrap up now. Because sometimes it could be like, oh, we sacrificed for you. Ah, do you know what we had to give up for you to go to school? We sacrificed. And even though I know you sacrificed for me, I knew that you are doing this job so that we have enough money in the family, but I also want your presence. I'm away because I'm trying to, yeah, that is good. But at the same time, you also want to pay attention to the impact of your actions and weigh it, which one is more important or which one will do more harm than good. The pressure to stay silent, because many people avoid to heal from that trauma because of these common statements. Oh, leave the past behind. Stop being sensitive. Sometimes you are suffering from trauma and you're trying to communicate and people are kind of shutting it, and this is how, or these are some of the comments or statements they make. That is just how life is. No, life is not supposed to be giving me trauma every single day. No, if that is how life is, I will change how life should relate to me. Yes, because sometimes when people are checking on you and they're, hi, hello, how are you doing, how is life treating you, I will tell you, how I'm treating life, I'm the one treating life. Because sometimes life will not always treat you well. So learn to also be the one to treat life, or teach life how to treat you. I don't know what I'm trying to say. So don't always wait for things to happen to you. Just like some people say, oh, my spouse don't treat me well. Teach your spouse how to treat you well. Learn to tell people how you want to be treated, or the way you want to be treated. Don't just expect that how anyway they treat me, I will collect. No. So sometimes people will just do some things without, like I said, they don't intend to create hurt or give you hurt, but that is what they end up doing. People say things that is how life is. Stop being insensitive. Oh, I'm sensitive. Thank you. Let me be sensitive. Leave the past behind. past that is hindering your progress, no, you don't leave it behind. You deal with the past. You heal from the past. Then you can now go ahead. Or else your past will continue to haunt you even in your present. It will, if your past can even make you not enjoy your today. I've seen people, come from hurtful pasts that even though the present that they are in, like for example now, past relationships, the present relationship they are in is a very beautiful, but because they've not healed from the past relationship, the past trauma that the last relationship gave them, they are not able to enjoy this present one. And what do I mean by that? Some of them, they are insecure. They are, what if this one's like that? It's because they've not healed. So they will just end up spoiling the present and the future because they refuse to heal from the past. So don't just move on from the past. Just move on. No. Are you really healed? Be healed before you move on. Because if you don't, the past will catch up with you. Because what often remains unspoken often remains unhealed. Okay. So I need you to start breaking the cycle of trauma. Even though it might be uncomfortable. Remember, this podcast is also uncomfortable but necessary. So it's necessary for you to break those trauma, those cycle of trauma. It's necessary for you to break it. Breaking cycle mean you learning healthier communication, setting boundary, going for therapy or counseling, apologizing when wrong, parenting differently, expressing emotions differently. Okay, so because healing is not just for you, it's for your children, it's for your relationships, it's for your friendship, it's for your future benefits. So I need to ask you this question: what behavior or what behaviors did you grow up seeing that you later realized were unhealthy? Another question I want to ask you: what patterns are you determined not to pass on? What beliefs about yourself came from your upbringing? And lastly, what cycle ends with you? This end with me. I want you to really list out those things. Because these questions will create strong life values, visions, and mission. So let me just end with this. You are not responsible for the wounds you inherited, but you are responsible for deciding what you do with them. Whether you pass them on or you will let it end with you by healing from them. Thank you so much. This has just been a beautiful episode, and I know that going forward we'll be intentional with how we relate, how we speak, how we think of people, how we pass on our thoughts, how we pass on our values, how we communicate, character to people without bringing some kind of traumatic vacuums along the way. Okay, so lastly on this series, I think probably next week we talk about how to heal from trauma. So we've talked about how trauma affects our relationship, how trauma is passed on. So now I want to heal. How can I heal from these things that have been happening? You're telling me how not to pass it on. Okay, I've heard you. Now me, how do I heal? So you want to be here next week. So we talk about that. And do not forget, if this has blessed you, share, subscribe, like, comment. Let me know what you think. Any, just make comments about some kind of trauma you've experienced as a child or as even as adults. What someone has said to you, what it did to you. Let me know in the comments. Share your thoughts with me, and do not forget to always, always, always share this beautiful episode. Thank you so much for your time, and do have a blessed one. So I see you in my next episode. Do have a beautiful week. Grace Gems. Bye.